The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Great to see you today. Great to everybody who's joining us live from the Too Informed to Vote Republican Facebook page and the I Love It When I Wake Up in the Morning and Barack Obama is President Facebook page. By the way, just a quick update. We've got those Barack Obama 1,000-piece puzzles that were sent to us courtesy of the We Survive Bush, You'll Survive Obama Facebook page. You remember those, Lewis?
Yep.
We are now in the final stages of putting together a great promotion giveaway thing we're going to be doing with them. So stay tuned for that. I know you're anxiously waiting.
I'll be here.
Hey, this is really funny. Rand Paul went to historically black college Howard University and explained to black people about black history, but he made a bunch of mistakes when he was doing it. So his whole kind of like, hey, I like black people thing did not even really go over that well because as forced as it was, it also contained a bunch of factual errors.
This is great.
Yeah, it's just, you couldn't write something this absurd. Imagine if he ran for president, but that's another story. So yesterday morning, Kentucky Republican Rand Paul, son of Ron Paul, gives an address at Howard University, historically black university. And the idea, the concept, the pitch was, listen, black voters should support Republicans, right? So even though they don't, and 93% voted for President Obama, the black voters that he is talking to, he wants to convince to support Republicans, or at least consider supporting Republicans in the future.
Right.
And he makes 5 major gaffes.
Only 5?
Well, there were minor and medium gaffes, but there were 5 major ones that are identified in a great piece on Think Progress. So I'll go through these. Number 1, he talked about how the civil rights movement is actually the history of the Republican Party. And the problem with that is he just went in there and started talking to an audience about something they already knew. So although it is technically true, in fact, as Brian Fisher talked about yesterday, it was what in the early 60s Republicans were that pushed the civil rights movement forward. Party roles reversed, so it's not relevant to today. So number 1, it's misleading. Number 2, it is factually accurate. But number 3, the audience did not like the fact that Rand Paul was in there telling them just basic things that, of course, they already know. So that was kind of like strike 1 against Rand Paul.
All right.
Then he assumed the audience didn't know the history of the NAACP. So at one point, what's being described as one of the most awkward moments of the speech, Rand Paul asked, hey, does anyone here know that it was actually Republicans that created the NAACP? And the entire audience kind of together responded with a very annoyed and sarcastic, yes, we do know that, Rand Paul. Please proceed, Senator. Tell us why else we should be voting for Republicans. So then he went into voter ID, right? And he actually said that the allegation that Republicans make. So he was asked, how can African Americans trust the Republican Party when the Republican Party is basically the one party pushing for these very discriminatory voter ID laws? And Rand Paul said, hold on, everybody. You've got to chill out about that. It's just common sense laws. And the laws are really, it's an updated version. To say that the laws are like poll taxes, which are discriminatory, is not a good comparison. Rand Paul argued that you are demeaning the history of segregation by saying voter ID laws are discrimination. Of course, nobody in the audience agrees with that because it's just not true.
That's very strange.
Very, very odd. Then, this is my favorite one. He tried to talk about the first popularly elected black senator, Edward William Brooke III, and he called him Edwin Brooks. Like, he just said the wrong name. He went in there like he was going to make a big thing about, I'm familiar with black senators and, Senator Edwin Brooks. And then the audience had to correct him and say, it's not Edwin Brooks, it's Edward William Brooke III, Senator Paul. So that was pretty embarrassing. And then he also misled people about his opposition to the Civil Rights Act. He said, he was asked, well, you've talked about how you don't like a lot of aspects of the Civil Rights Act. And he said, I've never wavered in my support for the Civil Rights Act or civil rights. And that was basically his line. He's never wavered. Of course, we know that he talked about how he opposes bans on discrimination in places of business and all of that other stuff, which he says is not anti-civil rights, but of course it is. In other words, he doesn't oppose the parts of the Civil Rights Act that aren't that important, but like the key parts that really made a difference, those parts he's not that big on.
The parts that basically influenced integration. I mean, yeah.
So in the end, the question I have is, how stupid does he think black people are, right? I mean, what other question could we be asking Natan if this is how he addresses this group of people?
Well, I think the main question is, when is he going to run for president? Because that's what we're really all hoping for. I mean, if he runs for president, we're going to have 3 of these a week. The whole show is going to be devoted to it.
Yeah, it's going to be. We're not going to have time for anything else. We'll have to expand the show to 3 hours a day.
I think it's a trend among many politicians to speak in this matter-of-fact way. That and it just seems like most of the people, they seem like they think the people they're talking to just don't know anything about the issues that they're bringing up.
Right.
And that's probably why they think they can just get away with rambling, just talking points on and on.
I'm surprised he didn't end with, in closing, some of my best friends are black people. That didn't happen, but I'm surprised that it didn't.
Right. And just one more point on the specific things that he's saying about the Civil Rights Act. I mean, his main thing, apart from the false claim that he's really just against the idea of applying this to restaurants, you know, showing how many calories their food has, which he's never said before. It was totally debunked on Washington Post fact checker. But anyway, the idea that, you know, he wants to leave, he would have preferred that civil rights legislation and actions were left to states and local municipalities. That was the whole point. Southern states and cities were not going to integrate no matter what. This was the only way to do it, to force it down their throats. That's the whole point.